The life cycle of an entity with respect to the APIs in Jakarta persistence. Now we are focusing on entity. Entities are persistent objects that represent data store records. An entity is a lightweight persistent domain object. Here you can see the life cycle of an entity with respect to the APIs. Here you can see the entity manage operations for managing an entity instances life cycle. An entity instance can be characterized as being new, managed, detached, and removed or removed. New entity instance has no persist identity and is not yet associated with the persistence context. A managed entity instance is an instance with a persistent identity that is currently associated with the persistence context. Detached entity instance is an instance with a persistent identity that is not or no longer associated with the persistent context. A removed entity instance is an instance with a persistent identity associated with the persistence context that will be removed from the database upon transaction commit. Here the use of the cascade annotation element may be used to propagate the effect of an operation to associated entities. The cascade functionality is most typically used in parent-child relationships. Entity instances are created by means of the new operation. An entity instance, when first created by new, is not yet persistent. An instance becomes persistent by means of the entity manager API. Persisting an entity instance, a new entity instance become both managed and persistent by invoking the persist method on it or by cascading the persist operation. Semantics of the persist operation applied to an entity X are as follows. If X is a new entity, it becomes managed. The entity X will be entered into the database at or before transaction commit or as a result of flush operation. If X is a pre-existing managed entity, it is ignored by the persist operation. However, the persist operation is cascaded to entities referenced by X if the relationships from X to these other entities are annotated with the cascade equal persist or cascade equal all annotation element value or specified with the equivalent XML descriptor element. If X is a removed entity, it becomes managed. If X is a detached object, the entity exception may be thrown when the persistent operation is invoked, or entity exist exception or another persistent exception may be thrown at flush or commit time. For all other y referenced by a relationship from X, if the relationships to y has been annotated with the cascade element value cascade equals persist or cascade equal all, the persist operation is applied to y. Removal. A managed entity instance becomes removed by invoking remove method on it or by cascading the remove operation. The semantics of the remove operation applied to an entity X are as follows. If X is a new entity, it is ignored by the remove operation. However, the remove operation is cascaded to entities referenced by X if the relationship from X to other to these other entities are annotated with the cascade equals remove or cascade equals all annotation element value. If X is a managed entity, the remove operation causes it to become removed. The remove operation is cascaded to entities referenced by X if the relationships from X to these other entities are annotated with cascade equal remove or cascade equal all annotation element value. If X is a detached entity, an illegal argument operation illegal argument exception will be thrown by the remove operation, or the transaction commit will fail. If X is a removed entity, it is ignored by the remove operation. A removed entity X will be removed from the database at or before transaction commit. Or as a result of flush operation. After an entity has been removed, its state, except for generated state, will be that of the entity at the point at which the remove operation was called. Detached entities. Detached entity results from transaction commit if a transaction scope persistence context is used from transaction rollback from detaching the entity from persistent context, from clearing the persistent context, from closing an entity manager, or from serializing an entity or otherwise passing an entity by value to a separate application tier through a remote interface, etc. Detached entity instances continue to live outside of the persistence context in which they were persisted or retrieved, their state is no longer guaranteed to be synchronized with the database state. The application may access the available state of available detached entity instances after the persistence context ends. The available states includes any persistent field or property not marked fetch equals lazy, any persistent field or property that was accessed by the application or fetched by means of an entity graph. If the persistent field or property is an association, the available state of an associated instance may only be safely accessed if the associated instance is available. The available instances include any entity instance retrieved by using find method, any entity instances retrieved by using a query or explicitly requested by in a fetch join, any entity instance for which an instance variable holding non-primary key persistent state was accessed by the application, any instance that can be reached from another variable instance by navigating associations marked fetch equal eager. Here you can see new transient. New transient is new transient interacts with managed. Persist is passed from new transient to manage, and rollback new is passed from manage to new transient. Rollback is an extended persistence context. Manage interacts with new transient, and removed and detached. Refresh is passed from managed to managed. Remove is passed from managed to removed. Persist, rollback passed from removed to managed. Rollback here is an extended persistence context. Commit, rollback clause are passed from managed to detached, and merge is passed from detached to managed. Here detached interact with managed, and removed interacts with managed. Remove is connected to new transient. Commit is passed from removed to new transient. Remove is connected to detached. Rollback is passed from removed to detached. Now this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for watching it.